Today I am privileged to be with award-winning and Grammy-recognised singer, but above all, the most sought-after songwriter and producer in the music industry, Mr. Skyler Jett. Hello, Skyler.
How are you?
I'm really good. How are you?
I'm feeling blessed, once again.
Now, you're not that far away from me, are you? You're actually in Scotland at this moment in time.
Yeah, I'm up in Edinburgh. I live in cold Edinburgh, and my wife talked me into moving over here, and I'm freezing. But you know, a couple of days ago it got hot and made me feel like I was back home in California.
Hey, we did have a bit of a heat wave, didn't we?
Yeah, we had a couple of days. It was great.
Yep.
It was amazing.
Did you know that Edinburgh is only about an hour and a half's drive from where I am?
Where are you?
I'm in Newcastle.
Oh, Newcastle. That's not far on the train.
No, not at all.
Wow.
So we could possibly meet up before I go to LA and have a meal or something and have a good catch-up.
Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, everybody's telling me to go. I mean, I went to go see my friend George Benson at in Glasgow. Yeah. And they said, you know, Newcastle's not that far from there neither. So, but they tell me there's a lot of music there. So I got to go down and check that out because there's not as much music up here in Edinburgh. It's more of a art kind of place. It's like wonderful painters and artists are here, you know. But there's not a lot of places to play music, and I like to change that actually because there's music lovers all over the world.
Yeah. Well, there's a place I'm not going to mention on air because they haven't paid me for it yet. But no, no free adverts, no free ride, mate. I tell you.
Yeah.
No, what I'm going to do is we'll mark it time for you to come to Newcastle, and I'll take you to this little joint in Newcastle City Centre that play really good artists, bands. It's a pub,
right?
And it's also well known for Northern Soul and Detroit go-go music as well.
Okay.
So we'll go there, and I'll see if I can arrange a night out for you up here when we got the Temptations on, I think.
Yeah.
In November at the Sage, the Sage in November, I think, at the beginning of September. So we're trying to organise something along that side. Anyway, we're sidetracking before we even started.
Oh, you're talking music, man. That's how it goes.
That's how it goes. Right. First of all, let's go back to the roots. All right. So first of all, where were you born, Skyler?
I'm from Oakland, California. My parents are from the South, and what's remarkable is that both of my grandparents were interracial couples. So we talk in 1910 when they couldn't be seen together. You know, so my Mississippi, my grandfather was French and Choctaw Indian. My grandmother was black, and my grandfather's people were the slave owners of my grandmother's people. So for them to fall in love was amazing. He was 19, she was 13, and my grandfather figured, I got to get out of here because there's two races, they're going to kill me. So he went to Oakland, California, where at that time they had the third largest port, and he moved right. He bought some land and moved right into the ghetto, and black people were going, "Sir, you're white. You don't have to live down here with us." And my grandfather wouldn't tell him that he had a black wife. So he built his house. Took him 3 years by himself. And he went back and brought the family out. And they go, oh, you got a black family, right? And so my grandfather built a wonderful barbershop underneath the house. And he started cutting all the black people's hair, you know, in the neighborhood, and start cutting a lot of the Black Panthers' hair. Those, you remember those bubble cuts, those Afro cuts? Yep. My grandfather was one of the best at that. And so that comes from my mom's side of the family. On my father's side of the family, they were from Arkansas. My grandmother, I found out, she was Irish, and my grandfather was black. So when people talk racism, it sounds totally crazy to me, because both of my grandparents were married over 60 years.
Yeah.
There's no need. Love is love, and I'm preaching that all the time. There are 8 million people that look like me and Obama. 8 million people in America. People are falling in love with each other. It doesn't matter where you're from. Here, I see more interracial couples on TV here than I've ever seen in America.
Oh yeah,
I absolutely love that. They show interracial couples on television, and so we have to stop all this. I just want to get the racism out, because racism is part of what I want to talk about in music for global change too as well. These are things that I want to totally erase from music, and none of these things, image, the way you look has nothing to do with the way you sound. There might be a little kid, a minority kid, that falls in love with country music, but you have to go tell them there's no way you're going to be a star, because Nashville and the people around Nashville, they're not going to let you be a star. And we have to stop that, because music is 12 notes, has nothing to do, with your color, your race, or anything like that. If you fall in love with something, that's what you like, God bless you.
Yeah, do go for it. Yeah, it's true. Mind you, England and Scotland, they've always been, well, United Kingdom, it's always been multicultural since mid '60s.
Yeah,
I think that's always been.
Well, I absolutely love living over here.
Yeah.
And the part of music for global change is this. Back in the day, there's such an abundance of talent in America. But I hate that I can drive all the way through Europe and hear all the American music that I want to hear. But it's not that way over there.
No.
And that's the thing I want to change, because I've been over here recording with some amazing musicians here in Europe. I tour in Portugal with a band, the Black Mamba. Africa, Switzerland. My band's in Amsterdam. And like I said, everywhere you go, there's amazing musicians. And when I had my own radio show back, I had a radio show for three years, Solutions Now Radio. And what I started doing was have at least one European on my show once a month, a European band or a star, right? And the Americans going, wow, never heard him before. They sound great. How come I never heard of them? It's because they don't want to open the music up to the world. And that's what we got to do. That's exactly what I'm planning to do. They're about to do a documentary on me. And the thing about it, I want to open up this whole thing to any musicians that want to write with each other all around the world. And let's open up the fan base more, because our music business is in peril. Nobody can make no money, right?
True.
So there's things like that. When this thing Napster came along, they just these guys decided to just give the music away, and so that's what really ended the music industry. But by 9/11 too, because when 9/11 happened, if you remember, no planes were flying. So if the record companies had bands over here, they couldn't get them home, right?
Yeah.
And so what happened to the music industry was the lawsuits. All the lawsuits, the bands were getting out of there, hey, you're supposed to have my record done by this date. I was supposed to be on tour. So that was a breach of contract, and so a lot of musicians were getting out of their contract. The only person that went with this in the right direction was Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
And what he did was he says, hey, musicians, what's going on? Band, we supposed to have our record out. And he said, I tell you what, I got all these servers over here. Why don't you just throw your song up for 99 cents? But at that point, musicians they didn't know anything about distribution. They didn't know anything about publishing, none of that kind of stuff. But and that's what you got to do right now, even with iTunes and all the aggregators right now. Yeah, you can upload your song, but you still, they don't tell you that the song is there. You still got to go tell somebody that the song is there so somebody can buy it.
It's got to be promoted. It's got to be promoted.
That's exactly right. So I know I got off a little bit, but this all has to do with what we're going to talk about, music for global change.
Yeah, a little bit later on in the interview. But it sounds fascinating, and it sounds a really good thing to do as well.
Yeah,
it does really do.
And not only that, if you love some type of music, play it. Don't worry about your race or nothing like that, right?
True.
Well, for me, that we got to take image out of the music business, because it's turned into this whole image thing. It's diluting the people that really are amazing and are blessed to play. You can take a little kid, he might be, or a little girl, and they might be the most unattractive little kids you ever seen. But you judge them on the way they look when they might have been the next Tchaikovsky.
Yeah, it's true. Now, I tell you what, we'll continue this conversation about that a little later on.
Okay.
But let's get back to it, because I've got a couple of questions I want to ask you before we do go into that sort of thing.
Okay.
Was any of your family musical at all?
Yeah, my mom, my grandmother, and my aunt were all gospel vocalists. My aunt, the army base in San Francisco was called a Presidio, right? And my aunt, she was 34 when she died, but she became the first black woman to run entertainment for the Presidio. So she used to travel with Bob Hope and Sammy and all. She brought all of the Rat Pack to San Francisco, and so I used to, as a kid, I've been in music all my life, so she used to take me and I'd meet people. Then two of my uncles were managers of big time jazz artists. Matter of fact, one of my uncle Arif, he was a promoter for Ike and Tina Turner. My other uncle managed Bobby Hutcherson, Woody Shaw, Michael Carvin, Pharoah Sanders, Bobby Humphrey, and Norman Connors, and many more. Right. So as a kid, I was always around it. So I've been blessed to have my uncles do that. My father left my mom when I was 6 months old. So my mom raised me, and my aunt, and my grandmother, and my two uncles, and my brother. And God bless my brother, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have known what you're supposed to do as a man.
I love Norman Connors' music. I think Norman Connors has got such a brilliant voice.
Yeah, he's a drummer. Norman Connors is a drummer, but he had like Gene Carn, and he'd always introduced great talent. Michael Henderson, So he was an amazing drummer, but he would bring along and introduce great talent for his band. Yeah. Kind of like when Miles Davis did. Miles Davis would always have young people in his band, and to give them a chance. And that's the thing right now is that. Okay, we'll get into the other thing, but it all leads into the whole music for global change.
Yeah. So what sort of music did you listen to when you were growing up, and did any of that sort of music have an influence on your musical career, or was it just family orientated?
Yeah, well, I sang gospel music at first, and because of my uncles, I started singing jazz before I got to R&B and rock and country. I write all styles now, including classical, but at the same time, it started out with gospel, and when I was about when I was 10 years old, I started singing like jazz, and then I started playing nightclubs at 13. So, it was crazy because I was on the basketball team at Roosevelt Junior High, and so you got after school work, and then you got to practice, and then I go to the nightclub to play. So I'm getting home at 2:00 in the morning. I'm 2:00. I'm 13 years old.
Yeah, I interviewed somebody else who did that. Started nightclub singing at 13. I can't remember who it was. It was a female. I'll try to remember, but she has to get escorted. The mum was there and the dad was there, and they would go into the nightclub and she'd sing, and then she'd come back out again and then go back home again.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was an alcoholic by the time I was 14, and no, it was horrible because those guys in the band, like we did 4 sets, 4 45-minute sets. So 15 minutes, with my 15-minute break, I had to go outside. I couldn't be in the nightclub. So the guys would give me the keys to their car, and I'd go sitting in the car, right? But I was crazy. So, the club owners would give me Coke and 7-Up. But the guys would always bring some booze and pour it under the table for me because they knew I was going to jump off the stage, do crazy stuff. And that's what started getting people, we got this kid down there, this guy's crazy, he's jumping on amplifiers and all kinds of stuff. You got to come. And it was packing the club because I was doing crazy stuff,
What was your tipple? What was your tipple? Was it vodka?
No, I was a bourbon guy.
Bourbon guy.
But by the time I got 17, man, I was worn out. I was just, I had rings under my eyes. I was tired. I was, making love to 40-year-old women and all. It was just bad. It was really bad. But the tricky thing is, by the time I was 21, and I would see young people coming at 21 years old for their first time to a nightclub, right? And I saw them get drunk, and it made me, it really stopped me right then from drinking anymore. When I saw that, I just knew I was a fool. But you know what? I kept on with my music. I've been doing it now for 52 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good.
And I'm more in love with it now than I've ever been, I used to live and play in Canada, in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And I remember I was staying at this 5-star hotel. It was the year that Close Encounters of the Third Kind came out, because the movie Through the Years was right across the street. Anyway, so I'm basically the only black guy but my band was white. I'm the only black guy most of the time was in the hotel. So one day, this bus showed up, and all these black people started getting off the bus. And I'm going, whoa, where'd you guys come? Who are you? They said, we play with Ray Charles. You know what I mean? And we're playing, tonight at 8 o'clock. I said, well, come on back. I'm playing in the club. Come on back, man. I know all the girls and all that stuff like that. And they came back, man. And so I got in with this one guy. His job was to walk Ray Charles to the hotel, take him to his plane, take him out on the stage, right? And one night, that night, about 3 o'clock in the morning, he said, man, you want to meet Ray Charles? I said, what? I must have been about 22. I said, of course I want to meet Ray. So we went up to Ray, and he's sitting in the corner, kind of just going side to side. I said, first of all, I said, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. He said, Ray don't know that. so we got up to Ray's room, and of course I got to tell Ray I want to be a star, right? And I want to be a star. And he said, calm down, young man, calm down. He said, let me tell you something. I've been in the business for 33 years, and I'm still learning. Well, from him telling me that, I no longer had an ego whatsoever in the music business, because you're always learning. Every day you wake up. And for the young people that's listening to me, you'll never get old. You don't say I'm too old, because I know Tony Bennett. Tony Bennett's daughter's a dear friend of mine. She introduced me to her daddy. He came out on stage at 80 years old. I was just with George Benson. He's 75. So stop telling people that you're too old. Mm-hmm. You're not.
It's true. It is true. I was chatting with Joyce Miller, and she's actually was it yesterday? I think it was last month. She was on the stage. She's 81, and she's still performing.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, Tony Bennett's like 86, 87 now. He's still out there. So I mean, you're never too old. I mean, it's 12 notes. If you're happy, it's the most important thing in the world. And I saw it on his face. Tony Bennett is happy. He was 80 years old. He came out. He said, I'm 8. He got a standing ovation. So he hadn't sang a note yet, right?
Yeah.
So never let people tell you that you're too old to play music. You're never too old to start playing music. And if you love it, it's the most important thing in the world.
True. Yeah. Never true word spoken. So, either one for you. Right, how can I put this? Who did you pen your first track with? Not the first famous one, but the first song that you wrote, who was it for? Not the first famous one, but when you were scribbling, and who was the first one to pick it up? Or how did you get into the songwriting business?
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, I started writing years ago, but like I said, I went from jazz to rock before I started doing R&B. So, in jazz you're doing a lot of notes, in rock you're doing less, right? Yeah. But I've written for Al Jarreau, I've written for Eddie Murphy, I've written for Patty Austin, and several other artists, right? And so I'm an avid writer, I'm a producer, and I'm a vocal producer. I mean, if you guys know the song "I'm Every Woman" on The Bodyguard with Whitney Houston, I arranged all the harmonies for that song, right? And so, I mean, it was amazing, you know, that they let me do that. but my thing is pulling harmonies together. I'm really good at getting the best out of people for harmony. You know, the singing background, I found out years later, because I've been on over 2,500 songs.
Yeah.
Background is way harder than singing lead.
It is.
Because you have to synchronize with other singers. You got to breathe at the same time. You got to give the emotion at the same time. You got to stay in key at the same time. And, you know, it's really hard. And I was part of a team that, for two producers, Narda Michael Walden and Walter Afanasieff, I worked with these people. And I mean, Walter, I did, you know, a lot of artists over here, Elton John and oh God, I forget his name, Tom Jones and all kind of people over here. But they would come over there to California and we do their music. But sometimes they would give me a chance to just arrange all the backgrounds, and I love that. That's what I love to do.
Just let you do it and just go, hey, there you go, Skyler, just do it.